The time is now good morning and welcome to People and Politics. This is KBC Channel 1. My name is Victor Oloo with only 34 days to go to the polls. Now, I have got two young people in studio with me. We're going to unpack the two manifestos, or rather, yes, the two. I have got Ascon, Kamili, who is Azimio Umoja Youth Presidential Team. There you have him. Welcome to the show. As well as Sheila, Sifuma, UDA Youth Presidential Team. Lady and gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Good morning, Victor.
Good morning. And let me start with you, Sheila, now that you're sitting next to me. You must be so busy as a youth leader of UDA.
Definitely yes, because we are at the last lap of getting the vote. So we're just there going to remind Kenyans to selling our manifesto and telling them what it is, unpacking it to them based on their different areas. So yeah, we are quite busy transversing the country.
How is a day like?
Every day,
at what time of the day does your day start?
It depends. Sometimes 4:30. Like most of the campaign we do in Nyanza region, KC, we start at 4:30, 5 a.m. in the morning, and it can go as late as 11 midnight. It
must be a very tough moment.
Yeah.
That must be the same with you, Ascon.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a bit busy this time, considering we only have 34 days. And these 34 days are very packed with a lot of activities.
Yeah.
I remember last week we were in Kakamega, Migori, Kisumu and Nyamira counties, back to back from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and you know, with very little time to relax. So you only get probably just one day to ease you know, the much work that you're doing. And today we are done with this. We're moving to Nyeri the whole day. You know, so it's a bit difficult, but we're up to task. That's why we are young people. We have the energy.
Okay, let me get this right. You belong to different political formations. Are you friends?
Yeah, we are friends, we talk. In fact, when we were coming in, somebody was asking if it's the first time we're meeting, and he was very surprised that
no, it wasn't.
We've met severally before. Yeah, we are young people, and our idea as young people is, you know, politics is not about enmity. It's not about fighting, it's not about hating one another. We must know that we could belong to different political camps, but also just advance the ideas of building Kenya and making Kenya better.
Sheila, do youth really understand the issue of tribalism? Now that you've said that you're friends and the two big political parties, it's not the first time you're meeting, as you said.
Yeah.
When you meet youth out there, what is their language?
By and large, majority of them talk the youth language, because you see where we stand and where even my colleague Ascon we come from. We say we are conspiring as young people to prepare the next, you know, to be the next people to take over and lead our people in the right direction. So as young people, majority of them have learned that politics is not about tribal, which tribe you come from, which camp you're supporting, but it's about ideas and ideals. However, there's a small section that still needs to just understand that. And I think this is the right forum to just let them know that we are not enemies. We are just here. We are political competitors. And after August 9th, we sit down together and plan the way forward. So, yeah, just a call out to the young people out there. Don't hate on each other because of politics.
I'm quite interested to understand how people communicate. Sheila, that was a hard tackle below the belt today. Tomorrow goes slow. Is that really what happens? The youth in this particular county, you hit it so hard. Tomorrow go slow. What is your agenda? You know, what is that?
Well, it's important for young people to know that politics is not about you know, becoming pretty much all the time acrimonious with each other. It's also a very important thing for them to know that politics is very important.
Yes.
And that there's a very fine line between politics and, you know, politics as a real thing and politics as a game. You know, the real thing in politics is that it determines what you do every day in your life. It determines your job. It determines your education. It determines everything. So on the one hand, when we want to view politics as just a game, we must also view politics as a very important aspect of our lives, and that they must participate in it, knowing very well that it's not just a game, but it's something that determines pretty much everything in your life.
Absolutely. Sheila, you know, when you talk of politics as a reality and politics is just a game, there's this aspect of women in politics. And let's just say it as it is. Women are still getting it so hard to crack that barrier. Why?
I think from the society we are in, it's largely patriarchal. However, I feel like most parties, especially my party like UDA, there's that opportunity that has given young women and women in general, because if you start even at the Secretary General, she's a lady.
Yes.
Moving down, most of the governance structures have women incorporated. So I just want to mention and say, it depends on you as a person. If you take up the opportunity that these parties are giving us, this institutions that are mentoring us to be leaders in our capacities. It's just for you to take up that role, know how you maneuver yourself in that particular area, and carry yourself with decorum. Because the other problem that we face as women in politics is you cannot be a man in politics. You have to be just a woman in politics. However, you know the value that you bring to the table at any particular time. So I feel like there's good progress in terms of women being at the table, but we still have a long way to go.
And I did know you'd send us into the manifesto so soon. Yes. Well, I thought this was a brief introduction, but as you have put it, I think the space of women in our politics right now is becoming even thinner within the UDA side and even wider on our side. You know, we have had opportunities of, you know, talking about how women need to be involved in our politics. We have had opportunities of giving them giving them chances to speak when really concretely they're not getting the opportunity to be heard when it matters. You know, we have an opportunity in the last few months. We have had an opportunity in the last few months where the presidential candidates were given a chance to, you know, select their running mates. We have 4 presidential candidates on the ballot today. Only one pair failed to give a chance to the women of this country. That speaks to the fact that there is one part of our politics that does not believe in giving a chance to the people, to the women of this country. It also speaks to the question of the young women. So if at all they cannot give a chance to, you know, the women of this country, what then would be the space of the young women within Kenya Kwanza? I'm very concerned about that, but I know I will give a chance to Sheila to respond to that in the later.
But then
I know Sheila can resonate with that statement.
You know, there's this thing about having cosmetic appearance to just show that you're gender compliant.
Absolutely.
And there's that in the background, in the machinery, even in the commitment. Like we've seen our presidential candidate, Mr. William Ruto, committing to give half of the cabinet to women. We've not seen such a commitment in the Azimio side, despite the fact that they have a woman on the ballot. Again, you see, it's a matter of optics. You see, they feel like maybe if you put a woman there, we'll get the woman vote. But you see, the women of Kenya are very alive to the fact that we are voting ideas.
But someone would argue that already Kenya, the other side of Azimio, have already hit the ground running, giving an example, picking as a running mate, but the other side of UDA have not met the part of the bargain. And also,
I think it's very ironical to put William Ruto and Kenya Kwanza on the same statement with commitment. We have had several chances where William Ruto has talked about the things he would wish to do for this country. We have had William Ruto talk about stadiums. We have had William Ruto talk about laptops. This has passed without any action. Now we have had women sign several charters. We have had women been given a chance to have a discussion and a conversation with presidential candidates before. It is only this opportunity that Raila Odinga has taken a chance, and has taken a bold step to give women a chance on the table. I'm very certain that Martha Karua sitting with Raila Odinga on the table will argue the case of women when it comes to appointments in government. Will argue the case of the two-third gender rule much better when they are the periphery and they cannot be given a chance to be heard.
Kenya Kwanza will also have their
we are not sure. Now we have Rigathi Gachagua who goes. Exactly. We have Rigathi Gachagua who on a sunroof calls Martha Karua Yule Mama. That tells you, the condescending.
Allow me to take a break at that particular point. I'll just take a quick look on what's happening on what we have on local dailies. Let me start with the Daily Nation. On the front page, polls, battle of the IT gurus. We have got Azimio flag bearer Raila Odinga and his Kenya Kwanza counterpart William Ruto are banking on information technology gurus to safeguard their votes. We have got Mr. Davis Chirichir, the chief Jubilee Party agent who also represented President Uhuru Kenyatta at the National Tallying Center in 2017 elections, leading Ruto's wing, while George Njoroge, that's the chief executive officer and managing director of the East African Data Handlers, heading the Odinga camp. That's what we have on the front page of the Daily Nation. And still on there, I made you president, Ruto towns Uhuru. That is some of the sentiments were made yesterday. Quick one on the front page of the People Daily. IEBC clears 16,000 people to vie. Premium tiers loading for 14,000 candidates who will be, defeated during the last month's election. Quickly on the front page of the Standard poll, Karua's big impact. She has 49%, Rigathi Gachagua 30%. And finally, the Star. Ruto, I did 3 meetings daily as Uhuru slept. Deputy President said that he woke up early and aggressively campaigned for Kenyatta as the head of state was sleeping. That is just a sneak peek on what you have on our local day list. You can take a copy of your choice and look at the stories in depth. All right, back to our discussion in studio. We have got 2 manifestos already in place, and they're in public domain. Let me start with you, Sheila. What makes your manifesto unique?
Our manifesto is unique because, number one...
That is the UDA manifesto,
yes,
right?
Yeah, the Kenya Kwanza manifesto.
Kenya Kwanza, right.
Yes, it is unique because, number one, it was crafted by Kenyans, millions of Kenyans, through different mini sessions that we've had with Kenyans in the Mashinani. And from the beginning, we had them at regional levels, where we could get the former regions, where we had meetings with them, asking them what are their priority areas, because you're going to this election, not telling Wananchi what we will do for them, but asking them and wanting to know what would you like for this government to do for you. Then thereafter, we scaled it down to counties, and we did each and every county in the whole country, and we got ideas. And then after that, we went to sectors. We did education, healthcare, youth, women, and we just got to understand what they want. And all this was merged together by a team of experts to get us what we have as the Kenya Kwanza manifesto. That is the number one and the most unique thing about our manifesto. And the second one is, our manifesto is very detailed. If you pick that manifesto for any leader who is committed to progress, committed to making Kenya a better place, if you pick that manifesto, you can implement it without even having to go and refer to whichever other notes, because it has case examples of how you can be able to do this. For example, it will come and tell you how to create many jobs using very little capital. Because the example where we see the garment industry in Kitui that created more than 600 jobs at a capital of 168 million, yet another company, another industry, which is the gun factory industry, that created only 100 jobs at a capital of 4 billion. You see, all these things can let you know where would you want to put your priority. Are you putting your priority in areas that create jobs to many thousands of Kenyans? Or are you creating industries that are capital intensive, that are only creating jobs for the few select? So as where I stand is, the Kenya Kwanza manifesto is very elaborate. Right. It's from the people of Kenya, by the people of Kenya. Yeah, and
for the people of Kenya and by the people of Kenya. Yes. Ascon, is that the same with Azimio la Umoja?
I'll say pretty much, but I'm also concerned by the simplistic way in which Kenya Kwanza views the challenges that affect Kenyans, particularly young Kenyans. You'll see the manner in which they dismiss big companies. And we can trace this from the sentiments by Rigathi Gachagua few months ago, where he proposed that companies like Safaricom would go down and be, they'd have investments directed to small companies. That is not bad. The issue would be, there's no point of creating a rift between the big companies and MSMEs. Our manifesto is very intentional. We have looked at the clear challenges that affect each and every segment of the economy and given solutions to each and every particular problem. We have talked about the young people of this country. We know that we know the question of innovation has been overlooked severally and over time. And our manifesto proposes a clear way in which we intend to invest in innovation done by young people. Our manifesto talks about the question of taxes and licenses. We know that so many young people are hurt by the fact that when they begin their businesses, they're not able to sustain the business because of the licenses that are very exorbitant, and also because of the taxes levied on them by the KRA. Our presidential candidate has proposed a 7-year tax holiday for each and every business that begins as a young business or maybe by a young person. We have the question of women. We have spoken about the specific areas that touch the lives of women economically and even socially. We know women have been disadvantaged over a very long time, and our presidential candidate has spoken about this severally. He has proposed in the manner in which women are going to be included in our government, the manner in which they're going to participate meaningfully. We are talking about the question of talent and sports. We know that Kenya today, we are talking about the national basketball team, which has performed very dismally out there. There is a reason why the national basketball team has performed dismally, because the government has not been very intentional on the manner in which our sports can be advanced going forward. We have our national team pretty much sent out, and we don't have a team right now. We have had a Kenya team where Dennis Oliech was doing very well, Mariga was doing very well, and all the other players. So the government that we are going to put in place is going to be very intentional with each and every aspect of our economy. And what is important right now is not about how detailed, it's not about how big. We have had the Jubilee Manifesto, you know, explained to us by William Ruto himself, then as a subordinate of President Uhuru Kenyatta. The most important thing is the practicability of the propositions that have been given in this manifesto.
Okay.
You know, the practicability on our side is as clear as the Right Honourable Raila Odinga proposes that we're going to have a 6,000 stipend for social protection.
I will ask that, the 6,000 shillings. Because,
but then a question,
yes.
You know, there's a lot my colleague Ascon has been mentioning and saying for women there's a plan. But then what is the plan? You know, if you ask what is exactly that thing that you will do for women of this country, if you talk about innovation, he's mentioned innovation. What is the manifesto speaking to the innovation? You know, there's nothing specific. It's just a lot of ambiguity and big words. And he has just mentioned something that just fascinated me and said, we have simplified our document. Yes, we've simplified because the problems that Kenyans face just need simple solutions. They're not geometrical or some graphical solutions that they need. They just need simple solutions that a leader who's committed to offer solutions to them will actually deliver. So it's not a jargon.
Well, I think that was a misunderstanding, or maybe she's misconstruing that statement to advance an argument. My idea is not that they have simplified their manifesto. Even our manifesto is very simplified, but they have looked at the issues very simplistically, looking at issues as though they're not very important, as though you can just wake up and, you know, pick a child somewhere, take them to school. And
yes, you can do that.
We are talking about, we have a question of children going to school. We are talking about, we have a question of children going to school and people getting meaningful jobs afterwards. When you talk about a child going to school and finishing and being handed over a wheelbarrow to just begin any business, that's not what we are talking about.
But what is meaningful employment?
That's a big
what is meaningful?
Because at the end of the day,
some jobs
the education
useless.
should be proportionate to the job that you're going to get out there. And a majority of this population, 70%, a majority of them, you meet them on a daily basis.
Yes.
The only thing they ask for is, we want jobs.
Yeah, and what is meaningful job?
So you know, we have, you know, my concern has been, Kenya Kwanza has even made us apologize for being educated. They've made us apologize for for working hard. You know, by this slogan that kazi ni kazi, they want to make everything okay, that even if you are a learned lecturer or a learned PhD or a learned medic, you can leave your job as a medic and go and push a cart in the streets and that's okay. That's not what we want for our country.
Let me tell you. I don't think that should be. Sheila, take it away, yes, please.
Okay, maybe that's why I think Ascon should really focus on explaining their manifesto. And I think that is where Azimio mostly loses it, because they come and try to explain our manifesto, yet we are the ones who understand it better. No, I have just to pick it up, just 1 minute. For example, when you talk about kazi ni kazi, you know, whatever job that is out there. For example, right now, when we were doing the SGR, there was a shortage of people who can do, what are they called? Plumbing, you know, the basic jobs that would actually, and you see these jobs are not bad jobs, because if you look in the first world countries, these are very well-paying jobs, and you can make that for our country. However, if you're saying you're apologizing for being learned, okay, what is your being learned helping this community with, when out of the 800,000 being churned in the job market annually, only 50,000 get into the corporate market, and around 150,000 get into the informal, meaning there's a chunk of almost 600,000 young people who don't get anything to do. So what has their education actually offered them up to there? And that's why the government of Kenya Kwanza is saying, whatever hustle that you as a young person intend to do, we are there to support you.
Okay, let me ask you this now.
We are there to support you.
You are on your feet, quote unquote, on the floor. What is the position of the youth in your manifesto as the Kenya Kwanza?
The position of our youth, the youth will be the biggest beneficiary of our manifesto. Why am I saying this? Number one, in job creation, we are the people who are mostly affected. Personally, I'm a graduate. Just to get a job in this country is a tall order. The best you can do is just go start a small business or a company as you wait for whatever other opportunity comes up. And if you ask many young people, are you actually doing the job you studied for in campus? Most of the people will say no. Whatever they studied in campus and whatever they're doing right now, it's totally different. And when you ask them, they're saying, you know, we have to make a living regardless of whatever we are doing. And then for the young people, the presidential candidate, His Excellency William Ruto, committed to give the young people a ministry, on the standalone ministry for young people. This is just a ministry to front the issues of young people, to make sure we are mainstreamed. Like even across other ministries, we have a representation. There's someone who can be able to come and say, hey, in this ministry or in this department, why can't we have young people being at the table? And then also he has committed to give us young people sit in cabinets, Yeah, those are commitments that are tangible, because once we have someone sitting at the table, they can make our voices be heard where it matters, where decision is being done, where resources are being shared. And I feel like young people will benefit the most for job creation.
When you have got a ministry dedicated to the youth, that's just a limited number who will actually gain from it.
Maybe just to clarify,
70% of voters and the youth.
Let me clarify.
How will they benefit?
Let me clarify. And that is the perception everyone is having. Everyone thinks like once we have a Ministry of Youth, we are just curtailing just a few employees to the youth issues. The issue here is mainstreaming, and the ministry, its work is to make sure youth issues, youth concerns are at the front of any discussion. It's not necessarily just for the sake of young people to get jobs, because if it's creating jobs, it's very few jobs.
All right.
However, they will defend many young people in schools. For example, there's that concern where we are saying Wi-Fi to be available in all shopping centers and stuff like that. Once we've committed that way, that Ministry of Youth is there to make sure whatever that was promised for the young people is actually coming to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Ascon, the position of the youth in the manifesto of Azimio Umoja.
At the very outset, let me begin by saying that our party leader, or our presidential candidate, has been very explicit about the manner in which he intends to solve the youth problem. We know that this country is buckled under the weight of unemployment. Big time, the problem that the youth face in this country is purely unemployment. So the party leader has spoken about the fact that if we want to convince the entire country that pumping people into the public service or the civil service will solve their problems and challenges, that would be a very wrong direction to take. But also he says that we have to get a cocktail or a medley of seeking employment in the public service and ensuring that we generate employment from even the informal sector. And there's several avenues within which our party leader or our presidential candidate has spoken about this. First and foremost, he says that, or for instance right now, if you were to go to an informal settlement as Kibera or Dandora or these other places, you'll find so many youths in garages and in the small business areas who have technical skills. What we want to do is do something called RPL, or recognition of prior learning, meaning that we know that you're a technician or you're a mason or you're a mechanic. The reason why you cannot get meaningful job or meaningful employment even with your skills is because nobody recognizes your knowledge, or nobody recognizes that you have some skill that need to be utilized. First and foremost, what we're going to do is to recognize that by issuing certificates to these people and being recognized by the government.
What will be the turnaround time? Within 5 years to implement this agenda for the youth? What will be the turnaround time?
Well, what happens in Kenya? In fact, I was having a discussion with one of our CSS sometimes back, and he said that Kenya does not lack in papers. Kenya has all the policies. The issue is the goodwill to implement these things. So what we need as a country is a leadership that goes out there to ensure that what is on paper, these propositions, how much practicable are these, and who is going to implement this? Our party leader or a presidential candidate is very clear on this, that within a number of time, within a number of days, he should have ensured that this has been implemented. The RPL thing is just having a policy in the Ministry of Education to ensure that all persons with prior learning or skills are certified. And that should not even take more than a week or two, or even three. A stroke of the pen and everything is okay. So those are some of the things that we're proposing. Secondly,
sounds easier said than done, because you can imagine after 2 weeks.
Well, so that's why we are. No. That's why we are requesting.
In 2 weeks' time.
Right. But you have not given me a chance to explain the fact that. As I was saying, we have reduced the conversation about employment to as basic as we just need to invest some 100 billion somewhere and get people buying carts and mkokotenis and doing business. That is not what we are discussing. We are discussing about tangible ways in which we can create employment. We are discussing about ensuring that each and every county has a product and manufacturing goes on. That's why our manifesto is founded on the concept of manufacturing. When China in 1978 was reviewing their model of economy, they had to invest on technical skills and manufacturing, and that is the direction and the tangent we are going. We are taking the direction of manufacturing to ensure that we have industries across the country that can employ people at whatever level and whatever cadre. We're going to have graduates in these manufacturing setups. We're going to have even those with technical skills in these setups. We are talking about industrial zones in across the country. We have had this in Mombasa, we have had this in Lamu, we have had this in industrial area. You know the number of people in this country who are employed in industrial area. But be that as it may, we are not limiting people to getting blue-collar jobs. We are limiting people. We are not limiting people to being employed by companies. We are also giving them a chance to do their businesses and support these businesses. Because when
I ask about the issue of turnaround time, you talked about 2 weeks and the implementation. The question is the implementation. When you talk of the current regime, an elaborate manifesto was given to the public. But to this end, somebody would look back and say, some were not implemented, and now the regime is getting out of office right now.
No wonder we talk about practicability.
Exactly.
Right? But before, a statement before she... I would like her to add it to this. I would like her to add it to this.
Hold on to that.
Because it's very important, I'm going to lose it.
Just lose it.
Sheila, go ahead. Dealing with the youth is...
No, but let me tell you, these people... No, she talked about Wi-Fi. You know, she talked about Wi-Fi in the marketplaces, and I'm so concerned of this. I'm so concerned of this. I'm so concerned about this.
She will be on our next, please.
All right.
After the studio, please. Sheila, go ahead.
So, you see, he has really gone around until the question is almost getting resolved somewhere. Yeah. So, basically, in terms of implementation, the previous government, what I can say is, you learn from
the current one, right?
Oh, the current one.
Okay, sorry, I've already...
Because she's in opposition, I think so. All right.
Come on.
I'm in first 9. Anyway, the current government, I think where, personally, on a personal opinion, I feel like where they failed was they gave Kenyans what they want to do for Kenyans. They didn't come and ask Kenyans, you guys, what do you want us to do for you? And I think that is a very big thing that we have actually learned. And when developing the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto, I think it was at the top. Because when you say, we will do this in this number of days, and yet you're not sure if the Kenyans mashinani actually want that thing to be done for them. But for example, you have a meeting with teachers and you tell teachers, what is your problem? They come and tell you there's a shortage of teachers in wherever, and this is and this. There's no curriculum development for ourselves as teachers when you're in the industry. Then what can we do for you? Then they suggest that for every teacher who is is employed currently, they should be able to advance their education at the cost of government. Like government will actually fund for a teacher to move from a P1 teacher to a degree teacher so that their salary can also increase. You see, those are suggestions that were not there in the current government.
Yes.
We just said we'll help the teachers. But then that is exactly what I am having an issue with Azimio's manifesto, because it's copying or is borrowing exactly from Uhuru's government. And those are the things that actually made a lot of stalling happen in this current government. However, if you look on this other side, we are saying, you guys have a shortage of at least 116,000 teachers in the country, as is right now. We are thinking of dividing this into 2 because we can't hire them all in the first financial year. It will be absurd. So we will not commit and say we will not have 116 teachers being employed on the first financial year. We will split this into 2. Get the first batch in the first financial year, get the second batch in the second financial year. To fail on such will be, and it can't even be imagined because you've actually planned and you have a budget. But there's something that Kenyans have to know is our manifesto has a budget outline already, has a detailed budget outline for each category.
Right.
Maybe a question again, maybe to manufacturing. There's something he mentioned and said. Their manifesto, which is Azimio's manifesto, is looking into manufacturing. But what areas of manufacturing are they going to focus on?
I'll explain.
Yeah, because, for example, in Kenya Kwanza, we're explaining and saying we want to invest in labor-intensive manufacturing. Labor-intensive means there's a lot of job creation, more than just the roads are good, the SGR is good, the expressway is awesome. However, you come and ask yourself, the amount of money that has been invested in that particular area and the amount of jobs it has created, was it a priority area? Or could we have taken this money somewhere else, ensure there's money in the pockets of young people and many in the pockets of Kenyans, before we now go ahead and choose which project to do? So as Kenya Kwanza, the concern is we are giving priority to manufacturing that create jobs. And when you create jobs, the biggest beneficiaries will be young people. It will be women. The community will be able to grow. And just to, maybe just a small one, just to explain on the concept of supporting the small businesses. You see, as is, 19 million of the population is a working population. However, just 3 million are into this corporate industry, the formal sector. Like the rest of 901 million are in the informal sector. So there's a 16 million in SMEs, and some are not even employed in the first place. So we are saying, if in a job you're making 500 shillings in a day, And unga is 220 shillings. It's even, some places it's even as high as to 50 shillings. Oil is to 80 in some places. So it means all your profit is being eaten down in a single shopping in one evening. We are saying we want to give you more capital, expand your business, ensure that if you're making 500 right now, you are able to make 1,000 bob. And as while you're doing that, this other side of the economy, we are putting subsidy into agriculture. Okay. We are putting a subsidy into fertilizer so that the cost of living also goes down. So the money you make in a day has gone up. The economy is a bit affordable. So there's a lot of money that remains for you to even develop yourself as a person. Okay. So it's a whole plan.
I would want to advance this discussion and ask you, Ascon, when you have a meeting with the youth out there and you look into their faces, what is the main concern when you tie that to the manifesto of Azimio Umoja?
Well, I've had discussions with young people for a very long time now. Stemming from the days of the BBI, the Building Bridges Initiative, and even up to date, we still continue to have conversations with them. And the biggest thing, or what comes out as the most important thing for the young people of this country, is employment. Nobody wants to know about who's going to be prime minister, who's going to be minister. And of course, they'll be happy to see Ascon as a minister or something. But they are more interested in how employment can be created for them. And, you know, it is very unfortunate right now that you'd go to the University of Nairobi and most of the graduates there would right now rely entirely on online writing to earn a living. When in real sense somebody took over 5 years to undertake a course in electrical engineering or an engineering course, they did not do that just to earn a living in whatever form or to go and sit in some shop somewhere and get some money. That was not the intention. The intention was how to get meaningful employment. And this takes me back to the practicability of these propositions within our manifestos. And I think that is what should be the issue. How colorful, how beautiful the cosmetics around it is nothing material. What is material is the practicability and how those who are advancing these ideas have behaved before. We are talking about a manifesto within the Kenya Kwanza that proposes free Wi-Fi in marketplaces and all other settings they're talking about. When we have evidence that in the initial stages, the same presidential candidate had spoken about issuing Wi-Fi free of charge to everybody in Kenya. To date, that has never happened, or that has not happened. You know, we are talking about on our side that we believe that manufacturing can cure this challenge of unemployment. And even on the same stretch, we're talking about innovation and giving a chance to SMEs, building them at the very particular level.
I'm told we're almost running out of time. Let me just give Sheila, right. Just hold it. Sheila, when you have a meeting with the youth, they come in numbers, but there is one aspect that we cannot run away from. Umetuachia nini? Okay, tumekuja, tumemaliza, what next? When you look into their faces, what do you see?
Actually, just before the discussion began, I was just mentioning to Ascon and telling him our campaign is almost on a zero budget. Why am I saying this? For example, just the other day, on Wednesday, I was in Kehancha in Migori County. And you see these young people, there are people who have ideas. They know what they exactly want. You know, I just paused and wondered. I just paused and wondered, has it always been like this? Because maybe I'm just new to this game and maybe they've been saying these things all along and now no one has been taking action. However, I feel like people are more enlightened, especially young people. They know exactly what they want. Last time we were in Vanga, in Lunga, and they're telling you, we want this and this particular issues. And the biggest issue, just as Ascon has mentioned, and it cuts across, it's employment. It's how do we get money in our pockets. I remember a young man in Lunga just mentioned and says, he didn't want to get married because if he cannot feed himself, how will he be able to feed the family?
That's a good point.
Very reasonable.
Yeah, it is very reasonable, but it just tells you how young people are struggling across, you know, our manifestos aside, everything aside, young people in this country are really struggling.
The issue of education, Ascon, Kenyans are educated. Let's just give it to the education sector and the government with the 100% transition. Kenyans have gone to school, but the education system that Honorable Raila Odinga is talking about, the free education, just explain to that first-time mother or father who is saying that finally it's going to be free. How free is going to be free?
Well, that's a very important question you're asking, because I think that forms part of the basis of our manifesto. The fact that we view education as a very important aspect. In fact, we talk about education as being the only equalizer, and it has given a chance to so many people. You know, we discussed this education thing as a country in 2002 for the very first time when we proposed that we're going to have free primary education. Well, there were so many naysayers, including those within the other side of the political divide. They didn't believe it was possible, and Raila Odinga ran with this because he's the one who spearheaded the campaign in 2002. And he committed that the education of the primary school would be free. Today we are proposing, and we are committing to Kenyans, that we are going to have free primary education, free secondary education, and free university education.
Where is the money?
Well, that is a detail, but I'm still explaining.
Sheila has asked my question.
Where is the money?
That is a detail.
I don't know who is the interviewer.
Let me say
today. go ahead.
But that will bring you back to the practicability of a manifesto. You will remember that a few years ago, when Jubilee was coming into power, the very same presidential candidate of Kenya Kwanza said that they're going to have free secondary school education. Up to date, we've not seen that. So what we're talking about is there has been these propositions before. The willingness to implement this is what is important. And that's why we should go into the character of this, the character and the history of these presidential candidates. We have Raila Odinga, who was initially proposed free primary education and effected it through the NAC government. We have Raila Odinga, who was committed. Well, he was not the president, but he steered the campaigns and he played a very important role in this. You get the point? We have a presidential candidate who has proposed that we are going to have highways across this country. He got a lot of opposition. You remember people demonstrating across Nairobi through the bypasses. Right now, Kenyans are enjoying bypasses all over Nairobi, and even in Eldoret, in some parts of Nyanza and Kisumu, all over the country, even in the coast. These are things that require an intention to ensure that they're executed, because every plan has to get opposition. Just like right now, when we talk about free primary education, free secondary school education, and free university education with teachers employed across the country, you know, you can imagine that we have so many teachers across the country who are not employed, and they're very well qualified. When every day on the newspapers you'll see adverts of schools that do not have enough teachers, you know, this is what our manifesto is proposing.
You've not answered Sheila's question. Where will the money come from?
Well, this has been a question that has been asked severally, and our principal has been very clear about it, that what happens in Kenya is that there is a lot of money in Kenya, but this money goes into the wrong hands. We know we have a lot of debts, but where is the money? The money goes into the pockets of a few in this country.
Thank you.
What we need
Sheila,
to
have
do,
you been answered?
No. What we need to do, just wait, let me build on this.
Okay.
What we need to do is to limit the much pilferage that happens in this country, the loss of public funds, you know, the much money that goes into people's pockets. What we can do is very simple. When you close these tabs and the money is, is retained in the government will get a chance to implement all its ideas and all its policies. That is why Kenya Kwanza is not talking about corruption, because they know the weight of corruption sits on their necks.
Give it to Sheila.
No, but you see, it's just a bit sad that my colleague doesn't want to understand simple explanations of English. Why I'm saying this is because in the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto, and the 3 reasons why our presidential candidate is running for office, he said he's going to institutionalize and make, what are they called? Judiciary, for example. Judiciary will get its fund. There's a judiciary fund that is already in the constitution that they need to get. Yes, to remain independent. Right. You see, if you, whoever pays the piper calls the tune. So if they keep on having to go to the president to beg for money all the time, we want to do this, we want to do this, it will mean if for them to give out justice, they'll have to check who is this particular person. Are you innocent or guilty based on the side of the political divide you're on? Because as is currently, you're guilty or innocent based on who you're supporting. And if you cross to the other side, you become the opposite. If you're innocent, you'll become guilty once you cross over. So that is what His Excellency William Ruto is saying. We want to give judiciary independence so that it can do its mandate without having to check on the side. Is the president okay? Is the president happy? You know, those are the things we want. And on its own, as is, we'll fight corruption. The other thing, for example, is to give the police service an accounting officer. For the longest time, we've not given the police service an accounting officer, meaning they cannot be given an independent budget to run their operations. What does that mean? The DCI will actually be waiting for a call from the president.
But I believe there's some institutions you cannot audit.
And that's why we are saying...
It becomes difficult to audit.
Yeah, but then again, give them money to be able to do their operations so that, you see, for example, you're a police officer, you have your own budget. You don't have to go and beg the president or whoever other quota for money to do your operations. Then it will make you independent enough to propagate justice the best way you know. And that's how corruption will be dealt with fair and square. Because, for example, from their side, they're saying they're fighting corruptions. What is the methodology that you use to fight corruption? You see, most of these things are very political language. It's cosmetic for the rallies, to excite emotion. But then, how exactly are you going to do this?
As you answer that, because we're running out of time, you'll just tie to this question. Is there hope for this country, more so to the youth as you answer that?
Thank you. Now, you know, on the question of corruption, I get very offended most of the time when politicians generally across the country, and we have had this to an extent in Azimio and also within UDA, when we reduce very important conversations into politics, it saddens me, you know, because you'll realize that it's very prominent in the UDA side that when a politician is accused of something, the first thing they'll do is, you know, somebody is fighting me. There's a politician who is fighting me. It's a very wrong way of looking at things. We have institutions in this country. Today we have a question about, we are talking about a question about degrees right now in this country. And it cuts across. Instead of just presenting yourself to the institution that has been charged with the mandate to look at these papers. You want to go to court, talk about how the president wants to kill your political ambitions, and this is very classical of William Ruto. You'll talk about Rigathi Gachagua, he's been arrested for, you know, engaging in corruption. Instead of allowing the judiciary to look into this matter to the full length, when he has not even been denied a chance to contest in an election, he still wants to explain to us how the government wants to finish him. We should allow our institutions, which have run over a period of time. We have the Office of the Auditor General, who gave a very, you know, comprehensive statement and even criticized the government, right? We should give these people a chance to operate independently. Once we have given them that chance, then we'll get the results we are looking for. And also as a student of law, the question of separation of powers, there's independence and interdependence. Okay. There's a very fine line between these two. At the very outset, when you talk about an independent institution, that does not mean that this institution should be fully independent, as though they are, you know, standing alone. Okay. No, wait.
But there's a provision.
There's a reason why the judiciary. There's a reason why
it's in the constitution.
It's
that
okay.
You saw.
But there's a reason why the judiciary and the Chief Justice must be able to work together with the legislature, that is Parliament, and able to work together with the executive.
My director says that we're running out of time. In 5 seconds, is there hope for the future?
There is big hope for this country. Yeah. Right. I know there's a lot of disillusionment, particularly among the young people. There's a feeling that we have been left alone, but I want to commit to them that there's a lot that has been clearly outlined by our presidential candidate, that's Raila Amolo Odinga, on the manner in which he wishes to help the young people and address their plight. Yep. Therefore, there is hope in this country, and I believe, considering our conversations with so many young people, that on the 9th of August, so many of them are going to turn out to vote to, you know, determine the future.
Thank you, Sheila. Some of the youth that you meet out there, perhaps you've met even your former primary school mates, you are, you know, secondary, and the people you interact with on a daily basis. When you look at them, can you tell them with a lot of confidence that there is hope for them in this country?
Yes, there's a lot of hope. And when we have these conversations, when it's not political, like a time like this, and Ascon can agree to this, we actually have very serious conversation as young people, and it's like we're having a conspiracy on how to actually help our generation to be better leaders, to be better in governance, you know, to be better citizens, because there's also that responsibility that falls on you as a citizen. So that where there's something that the government will do for you, but what will you do for your country on the other extreme end? So where I sit is there's a lot of hope in this country. Young people should not give up. It is darkest before dawn, and I feel like our dawn is very near. And the Kenya Kwanza government is offering a lot of space for us to thrive. So as young people, I'll just call upon us not to give up. Do not lose hope. There's a lot of maybe just to mention on mental health issues. There's a lot of mental health issues because someone feels they're at the corner. Some of us are here smiling and really pushing this agenda, but there's a lot we struggle with as young people because we live in this country. So it doesn't mean that when you're facing an issue, you have to relent back, go into drugs and all these things. So there's a lot of hope for young people, and we should not give up.
Allow me to end it at that particular point, but promise me that these are discussions that we need to continue, because we've not talked about industrialization, we've not talked about in-depth.
Now I'm looking forward to another invitation.
Exactly. We've not talked about the issue of
I've not talked about corruption and UDA and Kenya Kwanza.
All right.
And the young people in Azimio, 70, 80 years old.
Okay.
It's just amazing.
The future belongs to us, and we believe that outside there, whenever you're meeting these particular people, keep on encouraging them. And I like from the moment you started that you are friends. So youth, do not be enemies. All right, that's the right time for us to stop this discussion on that particular point, but they've promised that they'll come back at the earliest opportunity. My name is Victor Oloo. We are taking a short break, but when we come back, we'll be crossing over to Radio Taifa. We have got Colonel Retired Cyrus Oguna talking about matters economy. Again, it's an extended version of this. He'll be having that discussion with Rashid Momkondo and Wajuma Chose. So let's take a break, and when we come back, straight to Radio Taifa.